Hi. Lots of emotion going around, lots of anger, stress, fear, and fear really is at the root of the anger. There's a time, we're in this time where there's so much change happening, both in the skies and the stars, in the planets, in terms of the road, different alignment. Now that we are in, Pluto has transitioned into Aquarius, time of great change. And that influence is having an effect on our society, our culture, the world, the changes that we're seeing. And this is provoking a lot of fear in us, a lot of stress. And it's understandable. I completely get that. Um, so much of what we have come to rely on and expect to be, the truth we're living doesn't seem to be happening in the way that we really want it to and need it to. It is provoking a fear that doesn't need to be. Of course, there's that biological fear that has to do with our survival and with, just our day-to-day levels of well-being. And it's hard to maintain, any sense of serenity given what we are experiencing. And to further amplify that, what happens with anger, fear, stress, and it happens with positive emotions too, because we know that emotional energy is energy. It's very real energy. And whatever we feel, and especially collectively, whatever we feel, forms these thought forms, these emotional energy forms like clouds that float, that kind of mass together. As we know, likes attract likes. That's a law of the universe. And that energy is attracting that energy. So when we have this kind of level of stress and fear, what's happening is that fear is collecting, it's bonding with other people's fear. And everyone's fear is collectively massing together, and that's intensifying the fear. And it's also attracting more fear. And if we're trying to live in a peaceful place of serenity, acceptance, and love, it can, that energy thought form, that emotional energy form can have an effect on us, can influence us because um, it's kind of like a cloud in the sky will cover the sun. And so we, of course, are also in the shade when that cloud passes over the sun or the sun rays. The sun is still there, but we are not experiencing that. And that's what happens with these forms of fear and anger is that while we may be wanting and needing to maintain our inner peace and acceptance and love, it influences us, that fear, and it intensifies it. And we can live in a higher dimension, though. And that's what I want to bring this message to you is that those are all true energetic realities. But there's more energetic realities than that, higher vibration, higher frequency realities. And when we can detach from some of the experiences we are feeling with fear and stress, and we can rise to a higher fourth and fifth dimension, even if it's just momentarily, it has a strong effect and influence on our well-being, our level of consciousness, and our serenity and peace. And detaching from what's happening around us doesn't mean that we don't care. It doesn't mean that we're living in some alternate reality that these things aren't really happening. They are happening, but they're happening at a level of reality that does not necessarily reflect the bigger realities. It's kind of like floors of a building. There can be some activity on a certain floor, we'll say the first or second floor, busyness, activity. stress. But the higher we go in this building, we'll say that the less stress, the less anxiety and busyness, and the higher we go, the more we can experience those levels of peace and serenity. But it does begin with attachment. And it, again, doesn't mean that we don't care. It doesn't mean that, um, we don't have compassion for the suffering that some are experiencing and maybe ourselves is experiencing. However, that detachment is letting go into a higher reality. It's not denying this level of reality, but it's including and it's allowing ourselves to rise into a higher state of being. And so detaching can happen simply by reminding ourselves that this doesn't have to rule us. And it doesn't mean that we're denying it. It's almost like we're including higher realities. We're not denying this one, but we are embracing higher. And the more we do that, the more we build upon the vibration of that energy, and that helps everybody. That helps us. But just like a negative thought, emotion cloud of fear and anger, that rising creates a path for others to ascend also into higher states of being. And as we detach, we wonder, well, what do we go to when we detach? Where is our state of consciousness? It's reminding ourselves, and, I've been walking around reminding myself every day, every morning to open. I tend to clench some to open that kind of expression of smiling and peace and openness there in my heart, to open my heart every day and to invite into my heart and invite into your heart um, that unconditional love that's always there for us, that higher state of being that's always there for us, that force of love that I talk about in my book, Raise Your Frequency. And where is the book? Here it is. Sorry about that. Raise Your Frequency. And in this book, there are exercises and meditations and things we can do to raise our vibration, raise our frequency, practices we can do on a daily basis. And it's raise your frequency and manifest abundance. And the abundance we manifest isn't just financial. That can be absolutely a big part of it. It can be tangible, physical abundance, more of what we want. But it can also the really core of it, though, is the abundance of well-being, the abundance of a free heart, an openness, a loving nature, and the abundance of a universe that we can be a part of that isn't controlled, and our state of being doesn't have to be determined by everything going on here in this third dimension. We can live in a higher vibration and thrive there. And, it's the time to do that. It really is the time to do that, to take this definitely to heart and take this activity towards raising our frequency very seriously, because that frequency protects us also. That frequency puts us into the energy that is not dependent on what's happening here. And at the same time, it's nurturing and it allows us to live more freely and to be protected from a lot of this third dimensional chaos that's here, but it's going to get much more so here. Yeah, I know. Sad. But that's what's happening.